And welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast, a part of the College Huddle Network, along with my partner Brian Siegler. I'm Curtis Wilson, and as always, we are brought to you by Counts Family Pharmacy and Dr. Jeremy Counts down at 301 South Main Street in Blacksburg, your friendly neighborhood pharmacy. We are also brought to you by Moments on the Maury, a perfect spot for a weekend getaway, no matter the time of year. Moments on the Maury, exactly what you're looking for, whether it be fishing, kayaking, relaxing by or in the river, just out your back door, owned by a proud Hokie. He's been on our program several times since he joined us as a
Yes, he
sponsor.
has.
And he always has the right, if he's listening out there tonight, if he ever wants to jump on, he's allowed to jump on just like Jeremy is. Check out the link in the comments section or Instagram Moments on the Maury. What is going on, Sieg?
Man, it's been a busy week, but I'm here already. It's been a busy week, but it's Tuesday. We're here. It's Tuesday night. It's uh
It's only Tuesday.
it's only Tuesday, but you know what? I'm living the dream, man.
We all are living the dream, whether we know it or not, whether how busy we are with our normal lives. Clearly, Shelton and Tally not here tonight. A lot going on in their lives as well. So, sometimes we got to throw it back, kick it old school, 2-man style. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Just me and Brian here we're not telling the truth about anything. We can tell some lies maybe later on in the program.
We're gonna tell a little lies after
We'll
we
tell some lies
get to
later
know
on in
the
the
enemy here.
program. But we're going to start, obviously, tonight with Know the Enemy as the Cal Bears roll into Blacksburg on Friday night, 7:30 ESPN. So a pretty big national game, spotlighting us in a 2-5 season. Wonderful.
Just what we wanted. Exactly how we drew it up.
Exactly. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about these Cal Bears and getting to know them a little bit more. And I'm going to say something real quick, Brian, before we get into offense or defense.
Okay.
I keep hearing everybody saying, "Well, they ain't played nobody. They ain't played nobody, and they're 5-2. They ain't played nobody though, y'all. We played Wofford, Old Dominion, Wake Forest, and NC State, and we're 2-5. Don't say this whole they ain't played nobody. They're 5-2. I wouldn't give any body part right now to be 5-2, but I'd shave my head or something to be 5-2.
Hey Curtis,
Yeah.
you could probably throw USC East in there in that haven't played anybody category at this point.
So
I mean, the way their season's going, they're not stacking up to be much better than Wake Forest.
maybe not. But either way, y'all, your record is what you say you are. They're 5-2. And Justin Wilcox, who's been there for 8 seasons, it does not seem like he's been there for 8 seasons. I feel like it's like yesterday he was at Boise State, right? Wasn't he at Boise State before?
Yeah.
Wasn't he at Boise State? It felt like he was at Boise State like right
That
then.
sounds right.
It sounds right.
Correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, if we're wrong, please correct us. But he comes off a 6-7 season last year. He made some changes to his coaching staff. And probably the biggest and the most noteworthy name was he hired Brian Harsin, another former Boise coach. He'd been down at Auburn. Harsin was an offensive guy back then, or has always been an offensive guy. Now he's the OC. And, Brian, I know you do your research, you figure it out, but what do you feel is different, or what do you just from reading and maybe watching a game or two? I tried to stay up last Friday night. That just won't happen. I saw the highlight of what happened at the end of that game. But, what do you think he's brought to the table for Justin Wilcox to be playing pretty good at 5-2?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that you're seeing, I mean, this is, Harsin's offense is always kind of a physical downhill run game, very pro style passing attack, likes to use a lot of quick passes and then take some shots downfield. They've just been pretty efficient, especially having a freshman quarterback. You get a little headaches going along with that, but you brought in a guy that's really good to run that type of system, and you've got a pretty solid, elusive back in the backfield, and they do a lot of good job using motion and things like that, play action to really create some mismatches in the secondary. So it's definitely a pretty dynamic offense that you got to kind of keep under wraps here.
Yep. And real quick on Justin Wilcox, he was at Boise from '06 to '09. Stopped at Tennessee, Washington, USC, and Wisconsin before he got the Cal job. So it has been a long ass time since he's been at Boise State. But
Yeah.
people get certain stigmas, and Harsin was obviously there back before he got the Auburn job, and he had been there for quite a while. But 14 to 20s when he was there, then went to Auburn. That was a cluster. Golly.
Eric, you let me down, man.
I think if I had an adult beverage right now, I might doze out on you, Brian. It's been been one of those long weeks already. But let's hit a few of the key players on that offensive side of the ball. And the first one I want to talk about is the quarterback, the true freshman. Yes, that's right, y'all. I said true freshman, Jerron. I'm not trying to pronounce any other part of his name. I'm not.
Sagapolu Tulele.
There you go. So, first of all, his reading up on him this week, and maybe I can remember from last year, it was crazy. So, his backstory is he was committed to Cal for, it seemed like forever, committed to Cal way on July of 2024. Stuck with it basically until signing day. Flips his commitment to Oregon. Okay, makes sense, right? Oregon's bigger, Nike, Lanning coming off a great season. He enrolls December 27th. He enters the portal January 3rd of 2025. And then he commits to Cal 2 days later, January 5th of 2025. Little indecisiveness from the young man. But you know what, Brian, statistically wise, he's absolutely balled out so far this year in multiple different things. You know, you just look at him in general to be a true freshman. He's already right at 1,700 yards, 10 TDs, 7 picks, right over 61% passing. And hold on, where's Sheldon? Sheldon made me a little note of some of the offensive stuff. Appreciate it, Sheldon. It helps out, man. And if you look at his like PFF grade, his passing grade is at 77. To be a true freshman, to be bordering on that 80s, you know, Sheldon's always telling y'all where it is. When you start getting to the higher 70s, you're proving yourself pretty damn good. Yeah. 6'3", good size, 205. Brian, just from looking, researching, reading, what do we know about him?
Well, the first thing that I'm thinking is that, you know, he did all his visits when it was not a Eugene, Oregon winner, and he got up there and he's like, fuck this, I'm going to Berkeley. That's the only thing that I could think could happen there. But yeah, I mean, this is as you stated, man, highly touted guy, elite arm strength, ability to throw from a lot of different platforms, really good deep ball, got a quick release, good touch. Really the only thing you got to work on, I mean, he's a freshman, so mechanics, especially lower body, could get better. Really inconsistent with that, and, you know, will occasionally make a mistake here or there with the football, but there's not really a whole lot to critique as far as his overall ability. This guy can sling it.
And for the most part this season, with the exception really of that San Diego State game, which seems like an anomaly now for them, and the Duke game, but Duke's played pretty solid this year, he's had a pretty good season. And the thing is, he was highly touted, Brian. I mean, he was the number 7 quarterback in 247's rankings last year. He was just about a 5-star. Like, and then, so let's get upset real quick, Hokie fans. How did Cal almost get a 5-star? Other than he's from Hawaii, and it's one of the closer universities. But for real, like, the question is, how long do they keep him? Is it a Francisco Mendoza thing where next year he's not at Cal?
I mean, very likely it could be. I mean, this is a guy that's, I think, showing all of the ability in the world in year one. Definitely showing the potential where he could lead a college football playoff team with the right pieces around them. So I could definitely see him making a big jump after this year. I mean, he's put it on wax at this point, what his abilities are. He's definitely not holding them back at all. Obviously at 5-2, that's a good record. Even before you start digging into who they played, but I think he's shown the ability there. We'll see how things kind of wrap up down the stretch here as he gets into a few more heavy hitters on the defensive side. But he's done everything I think he can to kind of prove himself as a potential to make that big jump.
Yeah, and they do after the Tech game this weekend. It's UVA, it's Louisville, it's Stanford, and then it's SMU. So really, after this week, it's 3 of 4 pretty tough games. Stanford's always a rivalry game, always a great game. So going to see a lot more about him. All right, let's flip it over. Let's talk about it because you mentioned it with Harson's offense, downhill rushing attack, and they found him something that is a East Coast product in Kendrick Raphael, former member of the NC State Wolfpack out of Naples, Florida, class of 2023, right out of 4-star when he came out. And even at NC State, kind of being in a supplementary role the last few years before he came down to Cal, had been very solid, averaging over 4.5 his first season, averaging almost 5.5 his second season. And some good 20 receptions, give or take a few there. But he decided to transfer to Cal, and there is no one even close. And I say that very honestly, Brian, there is no one even close getting the workload he is. He's already at 115 carries, almost 500 yards through 7 games. What are you seeing on tape from Kendrick there?
Yeah, I mean, they really kind of have, they got a couple guys that kind of do a little bit different things. But, I mean, when you look at Raphael, he's the home run guy. He's the speed guy. Really quick as well. You might describe him as cat-like, can shift real quick, make people miss, but also has some breakaway speed to finish those long runs. Dynamic guy. He can do a little bit out of the backfield in the passing game. Pretty decent blocker for a smaller back. So he really does a whole lot to make that offense hum and kind of fill in the gaps when they're not able to throw the football down the field.
Yeah, and you talk about the pass blocking is not the greatest, but again, you start looking at it, he's really only out of the game, maybe 10, 15 times a game? Not like – there's not – effectively, he's a good enough pass blocker, even though the grades are out there, it's below a 50 in PFF. He's good enough at his size and can catch the ball well enough. They don't just – if you see him come off the field, it doesn't mean guaranteed it's going to be a shot play.
Yeah, he's not an absolute liability there, on that front. And like I said, because he's on the field, he gives you another potential gadget in the offense that a defense has to be aware of in those passing situations.
Yeah, and if y'all are wondering, in those first 2 seasons at NC State, 20 receptions, 137 yards, and he's already got 10 receptions this year, right at 50. Good for you, 5.423. Good for you. It's best Purdue 2024, best seats I ever sat in. Could hear people screaming, spit coming out of mouths when you're that close. It's unbelievable. But he's already shown the dynamic that he can catch it out of the backfield. He's not quite at the yards per catch he was at NC State, but I think that's just maybe more of a Brian Parson thing, not necessarily a Kendrick Raphael thing.
Yeah, I think the way, Harson's dialing it up as far as getting the ball to the running back a little bit different. It's a little bit more schemed versus kind of a consistent, just like dump off and let the running back do its thing. So he's not getting a ton of targets there, but he's doing a decent amount with the ones that he's getting.
Nice. Before we get to wideout, Brian, tell me what you saw from the line because, again, Shelton shipped over some grades to us, and it seems like their tackles a little bit better than their guards, especially when it comes to run blocking.
Yeah, I mean, and some of that's kind of a product of, I think, the style of Harson's run game, but yeah, the tackles definitely carry there, and you can kind of see it when you look at the 2 running backs, and you're seeing that the shiftier guys getting a lot more carries, a lot more yards. They're getting outside a little bit more. They're not necessarily ramming it in there between the tackles pretty consistently. So that's where they're going to have most of their success. Is kind of at the edges, kind of off tackle, that type of deal.
And then with Raphael's run style, obviously you're not going to be pounding him inside zone every day. Sometimes, obviously, but
Yeah.
you're not doing what
You're mixing it up. You're
yeah.
keeping a pretty steady mix of inside and outside, and I think he does okay inside, especially for that frame, but he really can make guys miss with that off tackle one cut type deal.
All righty. So a little bit on the O line there. Let's talk about the two weapons or the two wide receiver weapons, because to me, these two guys really stood out. And they are polar opposites of what they do. The first one is Jacob DeJesus, basically a JUCO product. He's like 5 foot, maybe 5'8" if they count him when he's in the 9-inch, the 9-inch spikes. You give him a little bit there. He's like 175 pounds. But you know what? You need to get the ball out quick on an outlet, get a couple yards upfield. He's your guy. He's already at 47 receptions. He's only averaging like right at 8. So not big, but you know what? Sometimes you just need to get the ball out and get 3 or 4 yards versus taking a sack. And it seems like that's what he does, Brian.
Yeah, man. When you think of a college football slot receiver, like that undersized slot receiver, kind of a gadget player, this is that guy. Versatility is definitely the defining trait. Use him a lot on jet sweeps. They've got him, running a lot of those short routes, setting up some of the deeper shots downfield. And he really eats in those ranges. He's also really good as a return specialist as well. So he does a little bit of everything. And he's kind of the motor. He's the guy that kind of gets those chains moving, gets the sticks moving, and gives defenses something extra to think about.
And I'll say this real quick. He was a JUCO product when he first came out. He went to UNLV for 2 years before he transferred to Cal this year. So, you got that. The other guy, his name is Trond. I've never heard of that name.
Tron
Grizzle.
Tron Aries is out and nobody's seeing it this week, but
no.
we'll see Trond for sure.
Trond Grizzle.
That's an all-time college football name.
That is an all-time college football name. It's not even a joke, man. Basically, unrecruited, unheralded out of Utah when he came out. Cal was it. So probably a smart guy if he wasn't that good at football to get into Cal. But as far as build goes, 6'4", 205, big guy. And definitely their downfield threat, averaging almost 17 per catch, 24 receptions, 400 yards. He's almost got Jesus beat with almost half as many receptions. So what's his deal when he gets out there?
As you've already figured it out, he is the downfield threat. He is catching the ball downfield. He is the guy that is stretching the defenses. And when you look at him, he's not a speed demon, but he's one of those guys with those long strides that kind of just walk away from you, even if they're only running like a 4.5, 4.6. And uses that big body to get position, come down with jump balls, and been really effective deep down the field for the Cal offense this year.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is, Carolina, he was shut out for the first time all year. But up to that point, though, he was roughly a 4 or 5 every game, averaging somewhere between 15 and 20 plus yards a game. So, that was a funky Friday night game. And basically, they should have lost. They should have. Could have happened to a better school or better head coach that ball just went through the back of the end zone. But they did shut him down from that perspective. So it was kind of interesting to see that. Anything else, anybody else that caught your eye? I know I wanted to hit those guys because it seems like if those guys are going, Cal's humming.
Yeah, man, you hit all the high points there, man. Those are the guys that we got to slow down. If we don't slow those guys down, it's going to be a long day for the Hokies. And obviously, when you look at what we've lost on defense and what we haven't been doing well most of the year, it's kind of spooky because we lost most of our elite pass rushers or our best pass rushers, and we lost probably our 3 best cover guys. So you lose your three best pass rushers and three best cover guys. That's going to be a long day for the coverage unit on defense there.
So not great at all. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball where Brian Parson was brought in. He took place of Mike. I butchered this guy's last name a few minutes ago, but y'all know that's kind of something I always do. But basically,
No.
Parson came in as a new OC, and the longstanding DC who had been with Wilcox, Peter Sermon, departed and went to the New Orleans Saints as a linebackers coach. And with that being said, he promoted Terrence Brown, right?
Yep.
And then brought in Vic DeSoto as co-defensive coordinators for their first year. And Brian, I watched a little bit of, I couldn't stay away for the whole thing, but for the Carolina game. And the craziest thing I saw, so I probably watched the first quarter, and I saw 5-man fronts. I saw a 2-man front with stand-up edges, outside linebackers. I saw a traditional 4, and I saw, at one point, 3-down line. I'm assuming they're multiple.
they're going to mix it up. I mean, it's a 4-2-5 base, but they're going to kind of mix up the fronts they're throwing at you. They'll go with that 3-man front on, nickel, dime packages, long yardage downs there. But, primarily it's going to be a base 4-2-5. The ends can have a little flexibility there as far as whether they drop them back in coverage, whether they're stand up, hand in the dirt, things like that. But I mean, it's a scheme built on being aggressive, being physical, and they want to attack and force turnovers.
And they are forcing turnovers because the first guy, and this is another all-name team. They've got multiple all-name team guys. He was a transfer, and before he decided to make his way all the way to Cal, he was at Florida International. Hezekiah Masses this season so far has 4 interceptions, 9 pass deflections, on top of 26 tackles. He's basically, I think if I can get it up here, you're average, 6'1", 195 corner?
Yeah.
But he's hawking balls and getting to the spots in just about every game this year.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good year last year with FIU, and I mean, he's just come over and kept it moving, man. A lot of breakups, a lot of interceptions, and he's just a guy that's going to attack the football. Sometimes he gets a little aggressive. That can happen. That can get him out of position, but he's very sound for the most part in his technique, and he does a really good job of driving on the ball and making big plays in the secondary.
Yep, and like I said, 9 pass deflections already. He had a couple against UNC. Did not get a pick against UNC, but has gotten a pick in 4 other games this year. Where we are offensively right now, like I wouldn't be shocked if he got one Friday night.
Yeah, it's wild because every time this year so far, knock on wood, every time we've highlighted a corner that is a ball hawk, they haven't hurt us. So maybe fortune's going our way a little bit here. Now we did get hurt by some other guys in some of those games, but the ball hawk that we highlighted did not hurt us in those games. Hopefully we'll not see Masses take over this game and make what's already going to be a struggle bus for our defense even harder by giving that offense a short field. Got to take care of the football. Paramount in this game because that offense is going to score some points. We know the state of our defense and how quality of an opponent that they are offensively. They're going to score some points. So we've got to be efficient on offense. We got to control time of possession, and we can't give the ball to Masses.
100%. Well, let's flip over, talk about the middle of that defense, and let's talk about Cade Ulave. First of all, again, it's because it's most interesting in my mind. UNC, poor running back, quarterback just left him and just got him murdered. And Ulave was the individual coming downhill on that little swing pass and popping the shit out of him. So Ulave, a Utah kid, when he came out, had offers Cal, Boise, Duke, Fresno. So not a terrible offer list. And in his time at Cal, basically, if you take a look, pretty much in a starting role. This season so far, 62 tackles, 7.5 for loss, 5 pass deflections, a sack. I mean, it seems like you kind of need a do it all linebacker, and especially one that's mean and good. He's the guy.
Yeah, man. I was doing some research on him, and like they talk about NFL comps, and like Drew Tranquil come up. It's like a guy
Okay.
that can work in 4-3, 3-4. Obviously, he's running in a 4-2. Just a rangy guy, sideline to sideline, good chase. Can cover running backs and tight ends one on one with ease. Comfortable in man and zone coverage, so he's got good flexibility. That he'll never be in a position where he feels uncomfortable or out of position and things like that. So, and when he hits you, he hits you. You know you've been hit.
Yeah, like that was a highlight. Like that was one of the things I woke up Saturday morning and saw was that hit more than a few times. I mean, and I'm sure there were probably some other plays where he laid it on, but again, he's doing his part in that defense. There's a reason that I mean, they're not that bad of a defense, y'all. Like they're like 52nd overall, so slightly above average, 44th against the run, like 56 against the pass. They're what doesn't stand out just from looking at tape and stats and data is they're not really a big sack team because even with a new system, some different schemes up front, I mean, they have roughly, I'm just doing math here, like maybe 10 and a half sacks. I can go get that exact data. So if they don't have that, it takes ball hawking, it takes disciplined linebackers, and it takes the last guy we're going to talk about here, which is, again, I should have got pronunciations on everybody, but didn't make it that far. Aiden Kiamiana.
Nailed it.
So
I don't know,
six close. 6'3", 320, definitely interior defensive lineman. Originally went to Notre Dame back in the class of 2020. So he was a COVID class guy and transferred to Cal back in, get the exact year here, transferred to Cal in 2024. And last year, 2024, not this year, he was the 4th highest rated PFF defensive tackle in the ACC. And last year, as we know from having Aeneas Peoples, there were some damn good defensive tackles in the ACC. This year, kind of carrying it on, 24 tackles, not any TFLs or sacks, but I think he's got a job to do, Brian, right?
Yeah, man. He's taken up the middle, man. He is the strength of that front, and he controls the line of scrimmage. He's got really good technique, great gap integrity, wins one-on-one matchups consistently, sheds blocks well. He's really got all the tools you want for an interior lineman. And he's really showed out. I mean, I know he came off an ACL, was recovering from that, and he's really showed out so far this year. The really only weakness in his game, sometimes he can lunge and overextend and take himself out of a play, but there's not a ton of things to critique with him. He does a lot of things really well.
Yeah, and the one thing that I can say it's about Cal in general because Cal was 6-7 last year. Seems familiar, right?
Yeah.
And Wilcox, who'd been there for 8 years, he kind of made overhaul changes to his entire staff too. Brought in Harsin, experienced offensive guy, former head coach. Seems like a lot. Brought in a defensive coordinator. He's took someone on staff and then brought in another guy from outside. And so far, for them, it seems to be working out. Where they finish the season, I don't know. Me and Brian were mentioning, well, they got UVA after Tech. They get Virginia's back-to-back. Well, that game's going to be on the West Coast. I told Brian I got a sneaking suspicion that's going to be an 11 p.m. kick.
Yep.
So, but like Brian, just looking, why is it working? Is it just Wilcox? I mean, Wilcox is a good head coach. I don't even doubt about that. He may not be top tier, but he knows how to coach.
Well, I think you benefit a little bit with promoting Terrence Brown, co-defensive coordinator. He is the one that's calling the plays there. So you got a guy that limited some of the potential friction with that coordinator leaving. On the other side of the ball, you bring in a very proven offensive coordinator, guy with head coaching experience, guy who knows how to be a professional, knows how it's done at the SEC level. So it's really interesting that a guy like Harsin would end up, at Cal, and we ended up with what we got. I mean, it is what it is, but they seem to got the better of that exchange there. And like I said, keeping the continuity on defense, I think, was definitely a big benefit for them, because there was a good amount of things that were working somewhat well for them last year. And I mean, as it stands right now, if you look at their schedule, there's no reason this team shouldn't at least replicate their final record from last year, if not improve upon it. With us still on the schedule, a couple other winnable games still on the schedule.
100%. So it's going to be a tough one on Friday night for the Hokies. Let's talk about the keys, Brian. You obviously looked at some Cal tape. You know what we are. What's your key? How can the Hokies come out on top, regardless of what you think is going to happen?
The Hokies can come out on top by controlling the time of possession and being efficient in the red zone offensively, because they are going to be able to go up and down the field. I don't have a doubt about that. So we need to shorten this game. We need to win the turnover battle, and we need to be efficient in scoring touchdowns and not kicking field goals when we get in the red zone.
Sounds like your Wake Forest game plan.
Pretty much. It's not a lot different. I mean, at this point, we know what we are, and we know that this defense is picked apart at this point from a talent standpoint overall, especially in the areas that matter the most, which is getting after the passer, covering the wide receivers. So I think we can hold up okay in the run game, but if we let Jerron take over this game throwing the football, it's going to be a long day. We got to shorten the game when we have the football by running the football, run it early, run it often, lean on your running game. Lean on your running game. I'm going to say it one more time. Lean on your running game. It's been the most efficient part of this offense. You've got a quarterback that can run well. You've got two solid running backs. As long as both of them are coming off the bye week healthy, run the damn football.
Run the damn football. I like that, Brian. I do. But I'll also say something else. The other thing that's happened for this team, and it's few and far between, are explosives. I know that's one of Shelton's biggest things is explosive. We're not an explosive team, and I think that's what hurts, because we can't get big plays when we get down into the 20-yard line inside the red zone. That's where our struggles are, because so many times this year, how many times have we scored, but it's been like 10, 12, 13 play drives. And eventually we can't get that done 3 to 5 times a game for touchdowns.
Yeah.
So
we're having some problems with that for sure.
Pop a couple explosives. Defense just, I mean, I said it a couple weeks ago, and it's still there. It's red zone defense. The red zone defense is just bad. When we get down there, when they get down there, like in some way, shape, or form, we have to stop them.
Yep.
And right now, again, we're the worst in the country, but at least limited to 3. I like what Steven says here. Yeah, we're some turnovers. I would say we've got to be +2 to have a shot at this game. Got to be +2. Even does not. I just don't feel good about even.
No.
Them, if they have +1, +2.
Lights out.
I'm lucky. Every game on Saturday is in the afternoon this week, so there's There's also a World Series game one to watch.
Yeah,
So not saying I won't have the Hokie game on, but clearly, oh look at that, look at that, right? Look at like that, right?
hey,
There.
yeah.
So yeah, but what are you thinking, Brian? What's your prediction for this week?
I like Cal to pull this one off. I'm hoping it's not going to be as ugly as I think it could be. I'm gonna lean quietly optimistic in that I'm gonna give us a 36-24 loss to Cal.
All right, I'm kind of not far behind you in that case. I do think Cal's going to win this as well. I do have to. I think they're more cohesive. I think they're playing well together. Again, 5-2, and again for those who say they play no one, we take 5 wins in a heartbeat. We would.
Some of us thought we'd have 5 wins at this point in the season.
Yeah, a lot of people thought. The discussion was when we get here, can we do big things or can we just sneak into a bowl again? Well, to sneak into a bowl this year, you got to win this one, and then basically, well, one of those games is looking more winnable every week. Every single week that goes by, that game in 3 weeks looks a lot more winnable. But
it looks a lot more winnable, but it's still a whole lot more talent on that side of the football than what we're working with. The only thing that's working in our favor, and even that, is the history against the quarterback.
True, but he got his ass knocked out against Stanford last weekend, so we'll see. But 31-21, 10 points. I think it should be an entertaining game, but I just right now, unless significant changes have been made, especially on offense, because I think defense they're working with what they've got. Offense, there's some things they could do. Y'all can take that as interpretation of whatever you want to take it as, but there's some things they could do that they have not done yet. So we shall see with that. All right, real quick, Brian. The busy week last week, and we didn't get to talk about it because we were talking about a coaching search. But what was your thought on the NDA?
My initial thought is that we somehow figured out how to lose the bye week. That was my initial thought. And the more I'm hearing, maybe the more it makes a little more sense as far as maybe we're a little bit further into this thing than I think some of us think we are.
Yeah.
Or at least a little bit further along than I think a lot of folks think we are in this search. So it kind of makes sense to go a little radio silent as you kind of work through things. You want to be as transparent as you can, especially as far as the money and the process, which I think we're still struggling with. I think that's still a problem on that front. But as far as what is happening, I don't need play-by-play updates of who you called and who you talked to. Like, we're never going to get that. That's an unreasonable situation. Also, it gives other people a way to basically, go against you. Potentially, other people can get information that you don't want them to have. They can leverage that offer and shit like that. So the point being, I think if we had had a little bit more insight into how the committee, what their process was going to be like, how the money was being raised, not having Witt go on different platforms and saying things that I'm not sure he should have been saying. And I'm not sure that he verbalized in a way that made sense because it just led to more questions. But yeah, I think the NDAs aren't necessarily bad news, but I'm not convinced they're good news either.
I think at first I was like you, like, oh my God, why does this have to happen? But then the week goes on, and then it's like, I think it's what you said. I think it's a lot further. The reason I think it's needed is it's a committee approach. That's the first thing, because when it's not one person making the hires, first of all, why is he still the AD? Y'all answer that one.
Yeah, we can definitely have that conversation, which I think we talked about enough at this point.
We've beaten the dead horse.
If on our opinion, he should have been fired when Pry was fired, and we'd be hiring an AD and then hiring a coach.
Yep.
But we didn't do that. We're stuck in this purgatory of Witt's kind of the AD of everything, but he's not really doing anything other than the final sign off on football shit at this point. So,
so stupid.
We're in this gray area. So, until he decides to move on, which hopefully is sometime very soon.
Yeah. The quicker he goes, the quicker you can actually maybe get I'm not going to say resolution, but maybe more clarity on situations.
But I think the problem I have is that it's a selling point of to a degree. If Witt's not here for a long haul, the problem that you have is that you're selling a current situation that could change in the future, and you don't know who your new boss is going to be.
But they're not going to. That's not going to be their boss.
I get there's going to be a structure there, but ultimately everyone is going to at some point be reporting to the AD, correct?
That's not what I heard. The way I felt it is there's going to be two separate silos. AD for everything
so you got a football, you got a football GM that's reporting to Sands.
Yeah,
I could live with that if that's exactly what they're going to do. But again, we haven't been communicated with enough to know that that's what the plan is.
Until he's gone, John Boleyn's gone, and probably to a sense Tim Sands gone. I think we're going to probably be more angry than anything. Yes, winning solves all, but when you see the way it's mismanaged, where's your confidence level? And I think Phil got on here last week, and that's what his thing was. Yeah. There's no confidence. I don't trust anybody up there.
Well, yeah, if I'm a head coach, looking for a job, and this is the situation that I'm walking into, the money is nice, and the money will help, and the money, answers a lot of the questions. It fixes a lot of things. But I really hope that behind the scenes they have a much better plan than what has been made public.
100%. And you hope maybe that's why the NDAs had to happen as well. Because when somebody gets hired is going to go bye-bye, well, let's keep that quiet. We don't need to let that leak out and potentially AD hiring going behind. Yeah. But I think it's what you said. I think it happened because I think we are moving a lot quicker to the head coaching hire than probably they didn't think of. And again, with that being said, probably more people, hopefully, crossing my fingers, I roll my eyes, that the structure's there. This is how everything's going to happen. Here's how all the dominoes will fall. Yep, there you go. Athletics president. It's two silos now. It's two silos. And truly, the AD here is not responsible for football anymore. Therefore, you're not going to get the elite level AD because every AD wants football on their resume. Once again, I don't care as long as it's winning. So there you go. Good point, gentlemen.
Let's talk about this, though. So I like this structure in theory. The problem that I have is that at what point does the football coach become accountable? Because if the football coach is working to bring in the GM they want, right? And now you've got a situation where your president has to be plugged in enough to make the decision to fire the head coach if he isn't getting the job done. Because that's ultimately what's going to have to happen there. Because if you got the GM in the pocket of the coach, obviously the GM could lose his job as well if the coach isn't going, but you kind of have them kind of hand in glove, and the president of the university, Tim Sands, is going to have to make that decision if the time comes where something isn't getting done the way it needs.
And I don't think I trust Tim less than I even trust Witt. So yeah,
I think the problem with Tim is that I think Tim is going to be happy with getting to a bowl and beating UVA. As long as we're selling out, he's probably not going to give a shit beyond that. So it's really going to come down to pressure from the outside to keep him accountable and keep the coach accountable.
I see some theories going off here in the chat. Sandy Barber, Penn State, you see that? From
Yeah.
That's if it's James Franklin. So, I know we went through that last week. A lot of people were giving their opinions on that. So we shall see how that works.
Yeah. I'm just trying to put some things out there as
Oh,
far as things
well,
to think about, man.
Well, you're trying to theorize things.
I'm not necessarily, like I said, I'm not necessarily like, I think we could still get the right outcome, but I don't have trust in the process through this point. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at.
So yeah, the whole thing that
if we don't fuck it up, it won't be for lack of trying.
If the next coach wins 8 games his first year, like, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah,
it'll be a miracle. Real quick, I think we missed this last week too. Christian Evans in the portal, got his 4 games, got his highlight. Thanks for your service. And that window's now closed. So really only 5 guys. That's it. 5 guys. Kind of shocking, right?
Yeah.
A lot of other guys injured. And,
it's all on defense, and it's all in positions that we didn't really have a lot of depth at to begin with.
Nope.
So,
nope.
That's the unfortunate side of it, is that now you've got 2 of your 3 best pass rushers in the portal. You got probably between injury and portal, you got 3 or 4 of your best secondary players in the portal.
Yeah,
and it starts to compound on you a little bit. I mean, you got Dante Lovett in there. Obviously, you got Jonkum and Burgos. Now you've got Christian Evans. I know Thomas Williams has been banged up a little bit. So like we're thin in the secondary, and we're thin rushing the passer. And at the end of the day, Tucker Holloway and Michael Short didn't necessarily move the needle a ton.
But they were bodies. They were bodies.
They were bodies.
They were bodies. They were bodies who could play at a Division I level, and
exactly.
And there are some guys out there. They're younger guys, and I think they're giving full effort, and they're probably not quite there.
But I think the guys behind them are in the same ballpark as a Short or a Holloway, especially just looking at Holloway from a wide receiver perspective.
Yeah, 100% on that. All right. What are you want to do next, Brian? You want to do a little more coach talk, or you want to hit the big screeners up?
Throw your carousel out there, man.
Well, the carousel, the biggest domino got reset with Florida going there, because Florida is the best job, even though they're insane down there. They're insane. They are. You go back to when they fired Mullen. And then from Mullen, they hired Billy Napier. Billy Napier never got off the ground. And I've said this on this program. I've said it in chats. I've said it to people outside. Lane Kiffin's going to Florida for one reason. Brian, I think you watched it Saturday afternoon. I know we did here when we got back from baseball and from a birthday party. He put points on Georgia's defense in Athens without much of a problem. He's missing one thing, and that is elite defensive players. I don't think he can get those at Ole Miss. I think if he goes to Florida, that's funny. That's funny, Stephen. If he goes to Florida, I think he gets the elite defensive players. And I think the way Lane coaches offense and how he recruits, I think he could win a national title there. And that's the first domino that falls is that. That means Ole Miss opens up. And is Ole Miss ahead of us? I think so. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that at this point. I mean, basically anyone in the top third of the SEC is going to be ahead of us.
Yep. Now, I do believe the only other one ahead of us at this time, because the talks are going all over the place, the Norvell stuff that happened. They ain't got $60 million is what the issue is. Because not only are you going to pay that old coach $60 million to leave, You're going to have to pay the new coach. My assumption is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of Florida State, about 10. So $10 million up front. To say $78 million, how are you going to pay for NIL? Because everybody keeps screaming, these guys are going to get fired. They're going to get fired. You've got to have the money to pay NIL next year. And most of these coaches in these contracts, example, Mark Stoops, which no one wants. I think Mark Stoops is a good coach. They can't buy him out of Kentucky. You know why they can't buy him out of Kentucky? They owe him $40 million within 60 days of getting fired. If you have $40 million gone, guess what you don't have in 2026 if you're Kentucky and the brand new coach?
It's a lot of NIL, man.
You don't have an NIL budget. And people can say, oh, no, the money's there, the money's there. Not when you have to literally take a chunk of your budget and pay an old coach who's not there.
I think you could probably get, one rich donor to front a third of that.
A third.
Maybe a third of that, but nobody's going to drop 40 million so you can use the money you already have as you expected to use it on NIL.
Yeah. And I think that's hindering a lot of people's decision from getting fired. I don't think it was Napier's. I think they were trying to legitimately give Napier a chance, even though they're crazy at Florida. I still say that. But I think his was like, what, was it 18? What was Billy Napier's buyout?
Somewhere in that realm, I believe.
I mean, it's like Hugh Freeze's. Hugh Freeze's is only like 16. So 21 million. That's a few million away, but I don't think Florida State.
Still half of Kentucky.
Half of Kentucky, a third of Florida State.
Yeah.
A third of Florida State.
Florida State's in a bad spot, and it's not even to say like, money's funny over there. Like it's not that the money's funny, it's that the money's high. And you kind of boxed yourself into a situation where it's going to be hard to make the case to front that money, have to go out and get another coach at about a 12 million a pop.
Yeah.
And then still be able to pay enough players to come in to keep your neck above water in the next season.
Mm-hmm. The other thing with Napier's, he's only owed $10 million within the first 30 days. The other one is the remainder is in equal annual installments. It's probably 3 years. So he's going to get 10 mil up front, like 3 point something a pop. Versus Stoops, and I'm assuming Norvell's is way up there. Because I think if it was half and they could make the other payments in 3 to 4 years, they would.
Yeah.
So, but back to what we were talking about there. But if you say like Penn State's the next domino that has to fall, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you could say Florida and Penn State are on equal footing. I'd say Florida edges them out.
Edges them out, SEC and recruiting territory. But let me ask you. You read, you think, who's Penn State target? Because Penn State's in a worse situation than Florida. Because when you say, hey, Penn State, go hire somebody better. Who?
I don't know, man.
So give me a name right now. If you say this guy would make sense.
That's one I haven't really thought a ton about as far as who the next guy could be. I mean, maybe Rule. Maybe. But I mean, Rule has he's still shown the ability to be absolutely slightly better than mid. And I'm not sure if his ceiling is significantly higher at Penn State than it is at Nebraska.
I don't think it is. The whole thing with Rule is he had the one season at Baylor, and he has now made an NFL job out of that, and he's made Nebraska out of that. It's pretty impressive. 6 years ago, the 11-2 season got him an NFL job, and then got him Nebraska. I like this. Rule's the safety net. Can I tell you who I think would be their number one? And Penn State fans may not like it. It's my number one for us. Because I think Matt Campbell will bring a different culture there.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one to throw out there. I mean, I feel like, to the point with Rule being a safety net, I feel like Rule is like been the guy that's kind of kept like failing up a little bit.
It's no
And I
lie, man.
mean, it's kind of crazy. He was kind of pulling a Cliff Kingsbury there for a while. Like, all right, we failed here. All right, get this better job. All right, fail here. All right, get this better job. And the wheels finally fell off of that. But he had a pretty soft landing. But I can see Rule kind of being in the same situation here, where he gets that Penn State job.
What about Drinkwitz?
Drinkwitz is a really good suggestion there. Jim is on it there. I think that's something that I think could be a good move for Penn State overall. It's interesting to see like how he would compare with a Rule from a culture standpoint at Penn State. Like obviously, I think we know, Rule kind of knows the lay of the land there.
Yeah, that's the thing why to me him or Campbell fit better than Drinkwitz. Although Drinkwitz, I mean, last 3 years coaching his ass off. 11-2, 10-3 last year, 6-1 so far this year, and the only loss was to Bama.
Yeah,
maybe, but again, I think Drinkwitz stays one more year there. But where can he go better? There's only a handful of places, and the question is, does his where he? Because I think he's Arkansas. I think he's more swag. I'm gonna start doing things like that. Lamar, I love you. That ain't happening. That ain't happening. That ain't happening at all.
I'll say this: could you see Dion making a move for an NFL job, regardless of who it is?
No, I don't.
Would the only NFL job he take be wherever Shador is?
It would, but who's going to hire him?
I agree. But
I mean, that would be
the Browns have done some funnier stuff.
It's true. It's true.
And, they drafted 2 quarterbacks this year.
They did draft 2 quarterbacks
while already having 2 on the roster.
Well, they got rid of one, and then that goes out and torches on Thursday night. So
I think the Browns are a criminally broken franchise, and until they figure out how to actually build a roster consistently, invest in their program, invest in what they have, and not be okay with just being average, it's always going to be like that.
It's 100%. So back to where we were, we go down, and I'm going to skip us. And so, again, I've said Kiffin's open.
Yep.
And they're above us. I think they're going to swing at one of those 2 young guys from the AAC. Put whoever you want to put on there.
All right.
And where do you lean? Silverfield or Summerfield or Summerall for Ole Miss?
I think Silverfield kind of matches what they're doing pretty well. I think he could come in and be kind of grab what they already have and kind of continue riding the wave. You could probably say the same thing with Summerall, but I think Silverfield probably has that by just a little bit. I could see some, either of them kind of landing in that Ole Miss Arkansas duo.
Yeah. See, I think Arkansas. There are people putting Arkansas above us. I just don't. Like you said, the top third, yes, we're somewhere in the middle third of, especially with the new proposed budget and everything. And to me, Arkansas's bottom third. It just is. They don't have the budget. They don't have the resources. If you think about who are they recruiting against. So if you think about who they're recruiting against, well, they're recruiting against LSU and Louisiana. They're never going to beat LSU.
No.
They're recruiting in Texas. Where are they? Like 7th? Probably in the pecking order in that area, 7th or 8th. And then you look back east, well, it's Tennessee. Well, Tennessee, Alabama, Tennessee. Everybody in the surrounding areas reaches into Tennessee. So that's not like their second place to reach. Like, we just go here and get somebody. It's an SEC. It's an SEC school. If the SEC could kick them out, would they? They'd kick him and Mississippi State out in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Say I'm wrong. You don't think they kick him out and be like, all right, no, y'all good.
Yeah, I agree.
We good. So yeah, but it is probably in our lifetime because of the potential of Auburn coming up, and then the fallout of where other coaches come from. It's probably going to be one of the more insane carousels we've ever seen. Because I do think I think at least, and I'm not saying G5, I think at least. Well, I mean, look what happens, Gilbert. We talk about NDAs on Monday, and UNLV looks the worst they've looked all season against Boise State.
Yeah. And I mean, if we're talking about that, I mean, Memphis goes and loses to UAB. And I will say this, there's got to be something studied on on situations where an interim coach is coaching in their first game and they get a huge upset win. Because it feels like it happens 9 times out of 10.
It's true. It's wild.
Like NC State with us. I mean,
yeah. They were rolling. They were rolling before they and we messed them all up. I mean, yeah. All right, but I think that we're going to get closer. As we get closer, more things will start coming to fruition. I still think we're third. In the pecking order. And I think y'all were great last week. Everybody that came on, I know we don't have a bigger crowd tonight. Hey, we're coming off a bye week. Y'all were great with
playing Cal. B, we're playing Cal.
B, we're playing Cal. Yeah, listen, if James Franklin wanted to come here, you can't say no.
Yeah, I'm at the point now where like people keep bringing up the big game thing. Like we need to start just being able to win the games we should win.
We haven't done that.
We got to get back to playing in big games, and I mean that we got to be able to get ourselves on a platform where we're ranked against another ranked opponent, whether they're ranked higher than us, and that game actually fucking matters, and not just we're 4-3 and playing a ranked opponent. Like nobody gives a shit about that. We've got to actually, there's got to be some skin in the game in that matchup for it to be a true big game. And we haven't been in a ton of those in the last 10 years.
No, we have not at all. All right. So I'm going to close down the coaching conversation because I could go on for hours and hours on that. And let's get to picking some games this weekend. Because again, it's another fun weekend of games. If you keeping up with this, me and Brian are very happy. We went 500 last weekend. That hadn't happened in weeks.
I did have a good week before last too. Yeah. I've been above 500 the last 2 weeks.
Yep. So the hook got me on the Notre Dame game. That game was 10 late, got 9.5. The hook will kill you every time. But again, another fun weekend. It was a lot of good games all over the place. So let's fire it up, Brian. Where are we going first?
Yeah, man. Going to Oklahoma, baby. Ole Miss heading into Oklahoma, man. And it's a 4.5 line for the Sooners. And I was looking at this and I'm like, I've liked what I'm seeing from this team. So I'm going to ride with the Sooners here. I think they're going to win by a touchdown. I don't really trust Ole Miss's defense after what I saw. And I think the Sooners are going to keep it going.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Oklahoma wins this game because I think Lane knows. I think his agent gave him a call about 1:15 on Sunday. Hey, just look at your phone. Yep, you see what just came open? Yep. Matee's back, getting healthier every week. Venables has that defense going exactly like we thought he would eventually get them going, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody ever questioned that. Venables always been a damn good defensive coach. So for me, you think about them this year, if I'm not mistaken, unbeaten, right? unbeaten. I'm not losing my mind, am I?
Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma's unbeaten. No, they lost to Texas.
They lost to
When
Texas.
T was out. But I think Oklahoma wins this game. What did Shelton and Talbot say?
They are riding with Ole Miss.
Bounce back. Bounce back.
That's right. This is Tally's game.
Tally is basically until Shane is either not hired by us or hired by us, he is picking South Carolina's game every single week.
The upside for him is that they're playing a pretty decent opponent every fucking week for the rest of the
season. They are. Although when they play Coastal, he's going to pick Coastal.
Yeah.
But what did Tally say? Laying 12.5. He says take Bama. Roll Tide.
I'm right there with him, man. I don't trust that offense.
Zero.
And they're not going to have enough defense for the fact that I don't trust that offense.
100%. This is a clean sweep across the board. Lay the 12.5. Alabama wins by at least 20. I'm gonna say similar to last week.
Yeah,
they'll get to 10 though. 31-10.
There we go.
All right.
Curtis, it's you.
What did you say when I threw this to y'all this afternoon?
I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I saw the line when I saw the line pop. I was like, "All right." I think you picked this on line vibes alone.
On line vibes alone, I picked this because I watched. Even though we were in the man cave here watching a movie on Friday night, I watch a movie in this room or television shows. There is some sort of sports going on. Brian's been here. Brian knows how it works. Playing video games, watching a movie, and I'm watching that Miami game, and it's like, how do you turn the ball over 4 times and only lose by 3? That's impressive. Most time you turn the ball over 4 times, whether you're a good team or a bad team, you're losing by double digits. I think they're going to come back, and I think they're going to absolutely obliterate Stanford because Stanford's feeling good about themselves, but they got to travel all the way from this side of the country all the way to this side of the country for a night game.
It's true.
I think 48-15.
Shelton is going with
the later points.
Cardinal, baby.
Points.
Is Tally. And you know what? You're riding solo, baby. You're riding solo. You know what? If it was 27 and a hook, I would have said, you know what? I'll bite.
They can win by 4 touchdowns. They can't win by the way, it's kind of funny, y'all. Look at the letters there. SUSS. Yeah, my pick on this is sus. But I think Miami bounces back in a big, big way. A sus pick here.
There we go. Big
All
sus.
right. Shelton went way off the map.
FCS, baby.
FCS, although a damn good FCS game.
The FCS game, if we're talking about it. North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Bison Jackrabbits, baby. The Jackrabbits are getting a 4.5 at home.
Mm-hmm.
Shelton's riding with the Bison.
What about Tally?
Tally as well.
You?
I'm going with the Jackrabbits, man. I think the home cooking is going to be the difference in this one. I think these are 2 teams that are as closely matched as you can get, and I think that home cooking is going to be just enough. I think it's going to be about a 6-point win for the Jackrabbits.
By the way, just so everyone knows, this is number 1 versus number 2 in the FCS.
Yep.
Both are undefeated. The game, I was hoping it was going to be somewhere. It's going to be on ESPNU. But North Dakota State is always too much of a monster. And they're only laying 4.5. And I know South Dakota State has beaten them in the last few years. But big game in the FCS. Glad Sheldon pulled it out because he messaged us says, "Oh man, maybe we should choose another game." And I'm like, "No, I found a line. We're picking this game."
Yeah, if we got a line on it and it's
we can find a line,
we're going to put it out there.
We're going to put it out there. So there you go. Go up the big screen, Brian. big screeners. Always fun. Always fun. Brian, I told you we weren't going to go that long tonight. You know what you get to do? It's not even 10:30.
Man.
Opening night of the NBA, man, and your late show is playing here in the next few minutes.
Yeah, about to put that bad boy on while I'm falling asleep because I will not make it through that one.
Actually, it was a 10:15 tip. Excuse me. It's already started, so you might want to throw it up.
5 minutes ago, yeah.
Yep.
I will not make it through that one. I can guarantee you.
Oh, no. We don't do that no more. Not anymore.
It's the struggles of supporting a West Coast team. I know you know it, and you get it at least on a more consistent basis than I do, because following NBA is a little bit different than NFL. Because at least NFL stays on a pretty consistent schedule, regardless of whether it's East Coast or West Coast.
My only hope is it's when I look at the schedule is they're not doing double headers on Monday nights.
Yeah,
because then I know it's a 10 o'clock kick, and it's like, well. My first thing to check the work schedule. Can I take off Tuesday? Because I will want to stay up, but I will be suffering for it. But appreciate everybody in the chat tonight chiming in as usual. Brian, anything to add before we take it home?
I'm ready to kick it, man. Let's do it.
And that wraps up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast, brought to you by Counts Family Pharmacy in Blacksburg and Moments on the Maury in Lexington, Virginia. I'm Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
Check out boundarycornerbd.com to listen to all of the episodes. Go back last week, everybody, so you can remember who talked about which coach. While you're there, follow us everywhere we are. We are on all social networks, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Check out the YouTube, all your favorite podcast sources. We're on them all. As always, we let our buddy Jason Long play us in, play us out. Check him out on his website, jasonlongmusic.com, where you can link to all of his music and check out where he is playing live this fall. We appreciate y'all all for listening out there. And as always, let's go.
Hokies.